So today I am examining Ariel's writing. She's in 5th grade and she's a level 2. She's level 2 in English. So just to jump right in, her strengths that I noticed. One strength, her goal was to write a story based on these 3 pictures she had. And her story matched the pictures very well. She didn't go off topic. She used the pictures the way she was supposed to, and her story just went along with them very well, so I was impressed with that. Another strength she had was I was impressed with her spelling. I've seen a lot of 5th graders with that aren't ELL with much worse spelling than this. So I was impressed because throughout the whole thing I only noticed one misspelled word, and that word was shock. She spelled it S-H-O-K instead of C-K, so it was a very simple mistake, and overall she did a very good job with her spelling, so I was impressed with that. Some weaknesses, she used the wrong tense quite a few times throughout her writing. For example, it says, her mom buy an ice cream. It should have said her mom bought an ice cream. She wrote, ice cream drop on floor. Should have said, the ice cream dropped on the floor, past tense. It says, after ice cream fall down. It should say after the ice cream fell down. So she had quite a few issues where things should have been past tense, but they weren't. So her tense definitely needs work. Another thing I noticed, a weakness I noticed, was it really lacked detail. It was kind of just this happened, then this happened, and this happened without much detail in between to give us the full picture. For example, she wrote, Ariel got a shock. It doesn't say what shocked her or why she was shocked. It just simply states Ariel got a shock. So I think she could definitely benefit from adding a little more detail into her writing. And lastly, her punctuation had a few issues. She had commas and periods in a few places, but there were quite a few sentences throughout that did not have any punctuation at the end, so she could use some work on that as well. The strategy I chose for her is called a dialogue journal, and that's on page 123 of the Gibbons text. A dialogue journal is a journal that you write between yourself, the teacher, and the ELL student, or you could also do the ELL student and an English-speaking partner. You're not going to do this, you're not going to pair 2 ELL students together to do this. It's supposed to be an ELL student and someone who is a native English speaker or who speaks English fluently. And it's basically an ongoing conversation between the partners, and they respond to each other in a single sentence. So it's short and sweet, and they get to continuously have this conversation with each other for as long as you let the activity go on. So I would introduce it. I would try to kind of make it sound fun. So I would introduce it something like this. Ariel, today we're going to start a dialogue journal, and you get to write something to me, whatever you want to talk about. You get to pick the topic yourself, and then I get to respond to what you wrote. So we're kind of gonna, it's like we're having a conversation, but instead of talking, we're gonna write to each other. So it's pretty cool. And you get to pick the topic, and you don't have to worry. You don't have to be stressed about it because it's not graded. It's just us having a conversation. So we get to talk with each other about whatever you want, and we can get to know each other better, and we can practice our writing. This isn't really something I can model that well, but I did make an example. I don't know, you probably can't see that very well. So just to read this example that I made, the student would start off, and they, like I said, they can write about anything they want, so it's interesting to them. So they could say, yesterday I finished reading my book. And the teacher would respond with something like, that's exciting. What was the title of your book? And the student would say, the book I read was called Where the Red Fern Grows. And the teacher would say something like, oh, that's one of my favorite books. I've read it 3 times. So it's really just a way for the teacher and the student to have a conversation. And I think this would benefit Ariel for a few different reasons. First of all, I think seeing a sample of good writing and using that as a model would be beneficial to anyone that's struggling with writing, just to see seeing the proper way to do it and just using that, using that as a model would definitely help her, especially like I think if she wasn't sure, do I put a period at the end of my sentence or an exclamation point, or if she wasn't sure if she should use punctuation, I think she would look back at the teacher's writing and kind of use that to self-correct in a way. And I think it would help her kind of figure some of those things out on her own just by looking at this model of good writing. So that self-correcting, I think, would be very helpful, especially for older kids. I think they're more likely to self-correct in that way, just looking up at what the teacher wrote and kind of using that like to check themselves, am I doing this right? I think it would help her be more comfortable with writing. She knows her audience. She's hopefully comfortable with her teacher. So it might take away some of the nerves of writing, because I know if someone is struggling with writing, it's probably a little stressful for them. It's never fun to do something that you're not that great at, it's nerve-wracking. So I think this would help her to be a little more comfortable. And I think that comfort would help her to add a little more detail to her writing, maybe write more, and just to know that it's not graded, I think would be helpful to her as well. Just, again, with that comfort level, I think she would maybe be more willing to take a few risks, just kind of put herself out there, add some details that she maybe wouldn't be comfortable adding to an assignment like the one she had earlier. So, yep.